Welcome, welcome back to another episode of the Lightdrop podcast, where it's just two friends talking creativity and beyond. My name's Jamil.
And my name is Jeff. Great.
Jeff, we got a special Memorial Day weekend vibes episode.
Yeah.
Because you're traveling, right?
I'm traveling. I'm in Dallas. Came to see my sister. It's hot over here.
Oh yeah.
We just avoided. I guess there was like some storm that happened in Dallas recently, or maybe just Texas. So we avoided it. It's just a little bit humid over here, but it feels good. I'm glad to be here. I'm coming to y'all from this amazing hotel room in the corner, and just there's no days off over here. Lightdrop. No days off. We don't care if
It looks like a nice hotel room.
Christmas Day. Yeah, for sure. And still excited to bring the energy. And I know Jamil has some heat for us, so really looking forward to this conversation today.
Got some heat on a hot Memorial Day weekend. Dallas is. I got family in Dallas. The only time I've ever experienced a flash flood, because they have the warnings all the time. Flash flood warning, flash flood.
Just ignore it.
I just ignore it. The only time I ever saw one though, like in real life, in person, was when I was in Arlington, in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, oh, I see why they call it a flash flood.
What does that even mean? Does it mean that it hits, like it rains a lot suddenly?
Yeah, like it's just like a downpour of rain, and then I guess in certain areas the drainage isn't that great, and so it just knee high, like in a matter of like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, kind of thing. And my aunt was driving. She was just casually just like, oh, okay, we gotta, because she's lived there for years. Meanwhile, I'm in the back, we gonna make it.
I'm getting time.
Exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, I woke up this morning. I looked at my phone, and it was like National High Wind Warning. I was like, what? I've never seen that before.
National.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it was like national. Maybe it was just regional, but I was like, oh, I shouldn't be
national wind.
Playing with
that
this.
National wind sounds crazy.
It's great. I can't even like run that way because it's gonna take me like 3 years to get away from this.
Just one big wind gust from coast to coast. It's just like you're gonna feel it in about 2 hours.
Right? You walk in. What was that?
All right. Listen, we almost skipped this weekend, but I was excited to talk to you about this book I started reading. It's by Ricardo Illy. Are you familiar with Illy Coffee?
Yeah, I've always seen the branding and everything, and I didn't know it was an Italian brand. I was probably even pronouncing it wrong, but I'm very familiar with like the coffee. I've tried it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know the story about it though.
Yeah, it's like a very, very high-end premium coffee brand. That's more than just marketing fluff, right? It really is good, and it's got very loyal customers who know that they're getting the quality that they want when they get that product. And this book I'm reading now, it's called The Art of Creating Excellent Products. And it essentially is him kind of giving a high level overview of what it is about many Italian businesses that kind of embody that premiumness to their products, right? You think of all these luxury brands that come out of Italy, many that we know and just as many that we don't know, that have been around for generations and generations. And the gist of this book, that really, I'm still reading it, so I'm still gathering my thoughts, but I wanted to just throw this at you, was the gist of this book that I love so much is essentially saying how we should treat creating a business like it's a work of art, essentially. And I
Mm,
thought that that was interesting from an artist perspective as an independent contractor, freelancer in the visual effects industry. Essentially we are our own businesses too, right? When we're contractors, we're putting our demo reels out there and we're showcasing ourselves. So there's a lot of parallels that you can draw from this book that pertain to your art and the
yeah,
things that we create, even if you're not necessarily making a business per se. And it's just really fascinating because I feel like it's a form or maybe like a mindset that's kind of lost in our country in the West, right?
yeah,
It's kind of people don't really expect high quality almost. You
yeah.
think about like chains and Starbucks and McDonald's and all, Walmart and stuff like that. It's kind of it's kind of weird where if you actually want to make something nice and really like impress someone in this part of the world, it's like you got to be really diligent about it because just the culture isn't accustomed to it, and it's a
No,
shame.
yeah,
Um, more so in Europe, it's much more based that way. It's this really kind of like art is the fundamental like essence behind everything they make. Like they really have a passion for their craft, and it shows in their workmanship and not only that, but in the way they kind of give back to their area too, right? With that like appreciation for the business they received from the resources that they used. Making sure that they're sustainable and that they're
mm,
compensating their farmers or whatever it is that they get their resources from in such a way that it's like you know really really nice, and it's
yeah.
really just this art good feeling kind of um vibe
That's
and brand. And
amazing.
I think that I just wanted to get your thoughts
Yeah,
on how that could be something that we start to think about a little bit more with us and our our own personal brands. People say that all the time now.
yeah,
You are your own brand. Same thing. So
yeah.
what do you think? What do
No,
you think about that?
that's a good point because I've thought about that a lot recently, thinking about my process when it comes to making things. When I'm designing something, sometimes I have to remind myself that the art is in the process. It's not just, the final product. It's in the process of naming your files. It's in the process of handing off things so that it's, better for the next person. In the process of how you kind of decompress after you've sent something out into the world. All of it is part of the design work. And as far as um, like the history of what happened with like American made products. And I think from my industrial design kind of background, we got to this place where we were competing with, foreign countries like China, where we had to make things very quickly and just to survive as like an economy. And it's kind of trickled down. Now we're kind of in this place where we have this culture of having to make things quickly. We have to kind of work, and that what happens with that, I believe, is that people lose the value of making things slowly, of taking their time. And I've also been thinking about all of how Europe there's this culture of you work, and then at a certain period of time, maybe like 6 or 9 or whatever, you everybody stops, and everybody there's this you
Like in
kind of,
Spain, the
yeah,
siestas and yeah,
siestas. There's that those holidays. It's not like we're waiting until we have PTO to take time off. Everybody gets time off at a certain time so you can enjoy the rest of your life. And I don't know, it's just it's such a great when I think about that there is somewhere in the world where everyone is aware that this work is just it's a part of your life, but it's not everything. So you can enjoy different parts of it and really take your time and really savor your craft, which is something that, I don't think we have here as much. There's definitely, people who can do it really well, but the majority of us are just trying to get by. Um, so yeah, it's something definitely that I think about, like how can we go back to that? How can I do that? Because I don't think artists are taught the importance of taking your time and
Yeah,
living.
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, putting your whole soul into something, to where it's, if I'm rushing to finish something, if I want to make something beautiful, I have to live like a beautiful life. I can't just
Yeah, exactly.
I can't just put something out and then expect it
Ooh,
to be
ooh.
good.
Wait a
Is that
minute.
another quote? That's
Say
another quote.
say that one again.
If I want to
Uh-oh,
make
Jeffrey.
beautiful things, hold on. If I want to make beautiful things, I have to live a beautiful life, and all of it.
No, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. So just some. I've been in the same wave as you in this book. Everything that you told me about it, I want to experience that, because it's
Yeah, cause
been a rush.
yeah, man. Like I said, I'm still reading it. I'm not even halfway through it. So we definitely will probably like regroup on this again when I'm finished and I kind of have some more time to digest it. But one of the things he mentioned was or not mentioned, but just kind of highlighted is just like you said, that kind of long game that
Hmm.
we kind of don't have anymore,
Yeah.
especially in this country and this culture. In many in many cases, young people, right? It's like quick, quick, quick. Everybody wants it fast. Um, and he said that the oldest, what was it? It was like one of the oldest family owned companies that's still a family owned company um, right now in our country is Walmart,
Hmm.
and by like European Italian standards, it's only like 50 years old. That's like a baby in its infancy, right? Like these businesses have been generate like they've been around for generations and generations, and they were founded with that intention, right? It wasn't like they were founded to get in, get some shareholders real quick, scale quickly, and kind of get out type of thing. It was very much like, no, we want our customers, and the people that we service, we want them to tell their children how much they love our product, and then their children become our customers, and it turns into that kind of generational brand that people really kind of respect, and is more than just the product. And again, there's like parallels that we can draw to our work too, right? The work that we put out, um, ourselves, look at ourselves as a work of art, you know,
Hmm.
um, when
No,
you wake up in the morning and how you treat yourself, how you take care of yourself, it's all kind of something that I think is lost in the sauce, right? Is
absolutely.
oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and um, it's just that idea of like setting something up for the future, like right for like what are we doing it for? Um,
Hmm.
without getting too deep, right? But um, it's like when you start something, where do you see it in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, right? Like
Hmm.
it's worth thinking about, because if you're not, it's like, okay, well, would you just want to make it and it's gonna be gone for you know 10 days
20.
later, 20 days
Yeah.
later, like so many other things just kind of lost in the sauce. Um, and that made me think of again, like especially even from my personal experience prior to reading this book, I wouldn't say I was like adverse to premium brands, but obviously when you think of stuff like Prada and Gucci and all these high end brands, clothing, cars, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like it's easy to look at it and be like, oh, it's only for the it's only for this. like class, right? And
Mhm.
obviously the money goes into it, so to where you can afford that kind of thing. But there's also that side aspect of like, oh, if you wear that, like you think you're better than other people, or it's kind of like this snobby type of
Mhm.
effect that's kind of tied to premium. You know what I mean? Um, when it's not really the case, because he pointed out, and we had an episode on perfectionism a couple months ago, and he points out like how perfectionism and striving for perfection doesn't necessarily mean most expensive, right? I think it's easy to kind of equate those two if you don't really know kind of what goes into it, but perfection can be, in his words, as simple as just like the the most simple, delicious $4 cup of coffee.
Mhm.
You know, sitting down in a nice cafe somewhere where you know the ambiance is nice, and like that's perfect, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have a lot of fluff, it doesn't have a lot of distractions. And so I think when we think about things that way, it's kind of like, how can we really just get down to the essence of things that we're creating, right?
Mhm.
Like first, it's like without feeling the need to impress and be flamboyant and throw like, you know, flashy graphics and here, look at me, look at me, look at me kind of thing.
Yeah.
With our work, it's just like the essence of like, what really is it about what we're making that's like perfect in its own way, that's like beautiful, right? And it's like this balance between that and nature. um
Yeah. And
yeah.
I also feel like we kind of do ourselves a disservice when we rush into those things because I've just been I've been starting to realize that, you know, this this process of making things, the creative process, it hasn't changed for a while. You know, those feelings, those moods that you kind of experience when you're coming up with things, those things are so important because, you know, you're going to be doing this for such a long time. So it's like kind of like, why rush the process of thinking, of reconnecting with the things that you're working on? You know, it's just this, instead of putting yourself in this like panic state where you're constantly competing with, I don't even know who, these standards that people will constantly set on you. You know, being able to take your time, you kind of, you know, you give yourself this opportunity to connect with the pieces of your work, to connect with the small fine details, and you really get to fully embrace it. And I know, like, it's just, that's the one thing that I feel like we shouldn't be rushing for, you know, this creative process of discovering things, because it's such a beautiful thing. You know, if you think about it, it's like going from not knowing how to do something, not knowing how to use these programs, to now you can create this beautiful thing that, you know, it just gets people excited about a different world. That's something to treasure, and that's something worth taking your time with, sorry. And I don't know, it's if you think about it, it's just like it it can be a very like sad and negative thing when you're in this place, because I don't know, I heard this story once, and this guy was talking about, he was making talking about ice cream, because he was like, man, I really want some soft serve ice cream, and his family had made ice cream for a while, and I think they stopped making ice cream um because of, like, you know, just the nature of American businesses. Things have to be either be profitable or whatever. And he restarted his company business, his family business, by just taking his time with ice cream, because he just remembers, you know, ice cream is a very American kind of thing. It's like a good soft serve ice cream. You give that to a kid, it was like the most magical thing. But now there's thousands of ice cream brands, and there's so much sugar in them. And, you know, you just go to the store, you buy it, and you go back home, you eat it by yourself or whatever. But that feeling of enjoying some really, really good ice cream is,
Perfect moment.
yeah. And it's the story. I mean, even I'm sure with like the I is it called Illy, right?
Illy,
Illy, sorry.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, just I'm sure like the process of ground of growing those beans, grinding them down from the beginning was a beautiful process that that family was able to transfer to a can, and then now thousands and thousands of people over the years have been able to experience that quality, and that's such an important and just a beautiful thing that we we forget if we're kind of rushing that like life is more than getting from one place to another, one destination to another. It's like enjoying a nice cup of coffee and being able to tell your kids like I was really into this coffee. That's bigger than these small um
Yeah,
these
it's the
yeah just
stories. Like you said.
just those beautiful stories throughout your life. I would love, I don't know if I have anything right now in my life besides maybe cartoons that I could like tell my future kids and just be like, hey, I really like I really
Yeah.
like the show, and it's still good now, which is hard because it's like, how do we share parts of our lives with our future selves, our future kids,
Yeah, that is
without
true. We don't really have
like what do we have?
anything where it's like, "Oh, yeah, back in my" yeah.
Yeah, like let me take
Back
you
in
to
my
the
day, we used to do, like I feel like if I told, like, my if I had grandkids right now and I told them
yeah
about they'd be like, "Oh, this sounds kinda boring." Like,
yeah right
whereas I listen to, like, stories that, like, my dad told about stuff that they used to do, and, like, it was all so fascinating because it was yeah,
it was such a
I think
process.
the point that you made that stuck out to me the most was, again, like, the story behind things because, it's not only being able to create those moments for yourself, but also understanding the context of what makes this ice cream different from this ice cream and why this company charges double for it, right? It's
hmm
more so than just like, oh, why would I pay, why would I pay $12 for a cup of coffee when I can go to I don't know if that's how much it costs. I'm just saying. Like, why would I
hmm
pay $12 for a cup of coffee when I could go to Starbucks and get quote unquote the same cup of coffee for
yeah
$4, right? And it's about and being educated about that process, right? Like again, in this example with illy coffee, when you grind coffee beans, you put a clock on it to where it loses that freshness, right?
mm
So they came up with a proprietary way to preserve that freshness, like from day one, and it's like they go through all these steps that cost more and are much more time consuming and tricky to pull off, especially at a larger scale. Um, that you know, what's chock? What's that coffee brand? The chock full of something. I
I just know about
don't know.
Nespresso
Folgers. We'll say Folgers.
Folgers. Yeah, I
That
think that's it.
Folgers is like, they're just cranking out coffee beans and people drink it and it's
Bigger
like,
coffee.
this is yeah. And the
Yeah,
thing about it too is I'm not even a coffee person, but my
yeah.
my my wife is, my dad is. They talk about, "Oh, this is crap coffee" all the time. Like, "Oh,
hmm
this is," they'll say, "Oh, such and such as coffee is trash versus
hmm
this coffee, which is quality." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. Coffee's coffee, right?"
Yeah.
But there's people um who appreciate the fact that this company goes through the extra measures to really preserve the coffee beans and get to you the best flavor possible, you know,
hmm
whether it be with coffee or ice cream or their process in general is, and so that's reflected in that premium price. Same with clothes, it's like I think about all the time how I think food is a good example for me where I used to go to this pub uh, when I lived in North Jersey, and they had this sticky toffee pudding that I thought was like, I thought it was, I thought it was great. and it was
Yeah.
good, it was sweet, it was kinda, like, tangy, and it was delicious. They had the caramel sauce, it was so good. I got it every time I went there, and I literally thought, "How could it get any better than this? Like, this is delicious," you know?
Yeah.
And then and then I went to Gordon Ramsay Steak in Atlantic City and
Yeah.
got Gordon Ramsay sticky toffee pudding, and I remember eating that and literally having, like, a moment where I was like, "Wow."
Rethinking everything you've
I was
thought.
like, "Wow." I was like, this is how it's supposed to taste."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yo, like, I see now why people pay more for this.
Mhm.
You know? And then you can't go back. And then you get bougie. You're like, "Oh, I can't eat that crap. It's that
Yeah.
sticky toffee pudding," you know? Someone will
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, this is delicious." And you eat it, you're like, "Oh, this is disgusting." "What do you mean it's
Yeah.
disgusting?" You
No,
know?
it's because like, you've experienced a better thing, and now you're like, "I can't go back." Because my sister always makes fun of me for this when I'm like, "Oh, I don't want this or I don't want that." I'm like, "No, I want the good stuff. I want my
Yeah.
life." I'm so dramatic. My life is worth the good coffee. It's worth the good
Yeah.
jelly beans, whatever it is. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, if you think about it, your whole life, you'll try like these bad coffees, these bad hamburgers or whatever, and then after a certain point, you know, because if you go to other countries, like let's say, you go to like Europe and you try their McDonald's burgers or whatever, it's like a higher standard. But like here, we've gotten so used
Yeah,
to
that's true.
like
Yeah,
whatever it is, and we're like,
because
sure,
they
fine.
could get away with it. Because 'cause we're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's fine."
you're like, I'll just sure whatever. But it's like if we want better things, we have to like bring
Mhm.
up our standards because it's like there's always a better option, and if it doesn't exist, you can make it. If the process of even dealing with clients is like terrible, with their past clients, people have dealt with artists that have given them a hard time, and then they'll meet you and they're like, oh, you communicate on time, so now you've raised up their standards of what this could possibly be, which is like a great thing. It's a great honor to be able to raise the standards of someone, and that thing sticks with them for the rest of their lives. Because like now with me, I have my standard thing, which is, of course, we're not sponsored by this, Casper. And I don't know if it was you who told me to get like a better bed,
Um,
or
yeah,
somebody else
I
did,
remember we were
but
talking about this a while ago, yeah.
yeah, which is now it's like I can't even in this hotel. I didn't even sleep last night because I'm like, there's a
Yeah,
better bed out there,
yeah.
and I've been
And you're like,
sleeping
"Am I
well.
bougie? Am I snobby about this now?" But, like,
Nah.
no, you actually yeah, it's hard to kinda explain certain things to like, certain experiences to, like, kinda download people on that heightened level, that augmented level of quality that
Mhm.
someone hasn't experienced before to where you know, where you're and, food I think food is the perfect example again because like, I could talk about a million things, especially in the past couple years where I've, um, I've gone out and said, "You know what? I'm gonna take some money and I'm gonna buy a really good steak." Like, I've never been to a good steakhouse and had a good steak from there before kinda thing. And then I did that, and now I know. And every time I have some other steak or I go to some place and I make the mistake of ordering, "Oh, yeah, I'll try it." And I'm like, "Oh, man, this was they charged me $20 for this. This was terrible."
Yeah.
You
Right?
know? And your standards are so high. Like, when's the last time you felt like you wanted to send some food back at a restaurant, but you just felt so uncomfortable doing that, you know?
Yeah. It happens a
It's
lot.
like
It's
yeah,
yeah.
and no one ever no one ever actually "This is disgusting."
Yeah.
You
And the
know?
people who do it, people will look at them, they're like, "What do you mean? Just
Exactly,
accept what you got and move along."
exactly.
um, which
You
is
shoulda known. You know what kind of food they have here. You shoulda known, like,
yeah, just shut up and eat your
kinda
food
deal.
and go on
Yeah.
about it. Something else I've been thinking about, probably feel like it's still in line with the what we're talking about is so obviously the last episode we talked to Lizzie and defining what does a good work day look like, or writing down a list of like your standards. And something I believe I'll be trying to put more into practice is setting up my own standards, whether it's like food or with work. And I think the big question for me this whole week has been, how do you define a good life? What are the things that you're like, I need these things because these things are part of a good life, and that's such an important thing. If it's coffee, if it's a good mattress, if it's good friends, these are the things that you need to be constantly checking for, because if you're not careful, you just end up being kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll just get whatever I
You don't
can.
even
And
know. You don't even know what premium feels
yeah.
like because you don't even look for it.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the way to frame it is
Yeah.
we need to start looking for we need to start looking for the best and the most beautiful in things. A couple
Mhm.
episodes ago we talked about being our own content curators,
Yeah.
as opposed to YouTube and LinkedIn algorithms and just accepting TikTok just flooding us with bottomless feeds of things, and we just, oh, this is what came up, so this is what I'll look at. But you know, what does a really good article look like to you? Of course, it's
Mhm.
subjective, but to you,
Yeah.
what is it? What is a quality 5 minutes spent on YouTube look like, as
Yeah.
opposed to just mindless crap that we are allowing ourselves to consume, and then of course is what's going to continue to be made because, oh, everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching that. We need to start looking for the better, the best
Yeah.
content out there for us, right? Because again, it's subjective, but what's the best for you? And demand only that. So it's
Yeah.
that's the only way we'll kind of elevate ourselves and subsequently everyone else's work and
Yeah.
everything.
Absolutely. And um, again, from a previous episode with Young, where she was expressing how, with the new things that are going to be coming out that are going to be produced by AI and influencers and celebrities, those are the things that will kind of set the standard for movies, for social networks, whatever it is. So now what's going to happen is, I think we can kind of put this responsibility onto ourselves, that now we're not just spending money on things. Like, attention is going to be the currency of everything. Being able to look at something, even being able to spend time with, certain ideas, going to certain restaurants, food, the way that we kind of pay for something now is by looking at it or paying attention to it. So yeah, absolutely. It's so important that we're curators of those things, because if we're not careful, we're just going to be flooded with these things. And after a few years, you kind of it's kind of like the same thing with a restaurant. You're just like, this is just what I've been fed, so
Yeah.
I'll just go along with
And
it.
then you ask for something better and they're like, "Oh, this what do you mean? You've been fine with this for years. Now all of a sudden you want."
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it's have you have you ever seen this movie called, um I think it's called Snowpiercer? You ever
Yes.
seen? Oh my
Wait a
gosh.
minute. Is that the one with the train?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then at the end, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but at the end of finding out that they're eating something that was like the bottom of the bottom. And I think it's like a good metaphor for life. It's like, if you're not careful, the people who the quote unquote chefs who are feeding you will just give you whatever, but you have to be the curator of what you're being fed. And it can start from, well, it does start with you just deciding like, I want better, I want better quality, I want better coffee, and those things. When I think once you kind of
Better
get
is the
yourself
best.
best.
What is define it for
Yes.
yourself. Like
Yeah.
what is the best clothes like look like for me that I'm able to get?
Yeah.
You know, what's the best car for me? Like whenever you go to spend your hard-earned money on something or your precious time on something, you know, what's the best YouTube video I could find that I will love, right
Hmm.
now and look for it. Don't just let stuff get thrown at you and you eat whatever.
Right. Because you think about, I mean, like, we're worth that. Your time is worth it. It's one of my favorite quotes by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he was asked like, "What's the most amazing fact, or a scientific fact, or whatever?" And he was like, "Oh, that we're all made of stars. We're all made of these beautiful things that you see in the sky, and we kind of forget that like we're a piece of that, and it's a rare thing that we're alive. There's more chances that you weren't going to be in this life, but you are. So you deserve some good coffee. You deserve
Yeah.
a good process. I mean, it's like, it's the least you can give yourself, is like, you set your own standard of certain things, and it doesn't make you bougie or anything. It just makes you aware. At the end
and,
of the day,
and
what's
that's
the
exactly, and it's more so you can think of it as this too is it's not that it's not that it's more expensive or it's more time consuming or it's more costly. It's like it's that's what it takes, right?
yeah.
To because a lot of these products, again, food I think is the best example of this.
Yeah.
Let's say like wagyu beef, for example.
Mm, delicious.
You could eat you could put wagyu beef on the grill for 10 seconds and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's wagyu beef, right? It's like the cows are treated like royalty, right? And that's why they come out. The meat is so tender and all that. It's very, 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 very expensive because not because they're trying to squeeze and nickel and dime you, but because that's the time that went into it. That's what it costs to do
Hmm.
this, right? And you think about clothes. Oh, I want the really nice materials that I know that the company for every like wool, for example, they're wool farmers. Like they treat them well, right? They're not just farming sheep out here and mistreating him so that they can get the most wool out of. Like, I'm gonna get it from this company because I know that they take care of their farmers and their supply chain and it's sustainable, right? I think
Hmm.
that word sustainable has gotten so diluted, with all of the politics behind it and the buzzwords and the marketing of sustainable practices. But really, and then you don't really know what it means, right? You're like, oh, this is sustainable. But really, all it means is that everyone or everything that business touches along the way of operating is
Hmm.
left in a better position afterwards. That's
Hmm.
that's all sustainable means. From the products to the supply chain to the nature that's being impacted, like it's all left in a better place, just as good or in a better place as it was
Hmm.
before they got there. And so how can you kind of be the same with everything that you do and everything, just kind of think in this way. It's about quality and about craftsmanship and about looking for the best. It's a subjective thing that you have to actually ask yourself what it is that you want, and look for it and not
Yeah.
just accept any old thing.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to talk about some of our, what are our standards for certain things. I think it's good to share. Obviously, I have my Casper bed, which is which is a great bed, and I always miss it whenever I'm far away. Um, I have certain types of coffee. I can tell when coffee is bad. I can immediately tell, like, oh, this coffee was burnt or overcooked or something, whatever it is. And something I've been trying to embrace more because it kind of allows me to enjoy my life a little bit better is just having like really nice shoes. Because that's something that I think, especially as you know, as men, we think that, oh, we got to kind of suffer through life. you know, we're like, I think it's got to be hard unless if it's not difficult,
Yeah,
if I can't be too comfortable. Uh,
yeah.
we think that our
People think
bodies
I'm soft
soft or
because
something will like turn into clay. So I just have these things that I'm just like, if if I had my last, $10 and I want to enjoy it, I want to get these things. So do you have any of those things where you're like, I
yeah.
gotta get this thing? Because I
For
know
me,
you love
I'm a
steak.
yeah. Well, that's old. Yeah, because I make it a lot too. So
Yeah.
there's been so many times where I've paid for it at a restaurant and just been like,
Mhm.
I could have made this myself way better.
Like,
And
come on.
I always regret it. For me, I'm a water snob. I would
Mm,
say maybe that's not,
yeah,
maybe I'm saying snob like
it's
I'm
a
just
bad
throwing
thing.
that
No,
word out there. Maybe I should stop saying that.
no,
I like water, and I can
yeah,
tell when it's like you with coffee.
hmm,
I can drink it and be like, ugh, this is where's the Fiji at? Where's the let me get some let me get some spring water, like
yeah,
I could tell if it's tap
yeah,
water or if it's reverse osmosis, dollar
yeah,
store water, bottled water. That's
hmm,
like for me. So if I ever go to like the gas station or whatever, I'm getting the Fiji. I'm getting the Evian.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm spending the extra $1.50.
yeah. And you savor it. You're like, oh man, this is.
Yeah.
I was waiting for this,
Oh man, this was in the mountains.
right? And
Now
it
it's in my mouth.
and I think it's kind of it's kind of nice to be grounded by some of those things. It's like you forget. You're like, oh, I've been I've been working every single day for the last 5 6 days, and then you'll drink this water, or I'll get in my bed at the end of the night. I'm like, ah, it's like this is what it was all worth. Like all
You
this.
treat yourself. You feel
Yeah, you
like you're
treat
taking
yourself.
care of yourself.
Yeah, I saw this video of this woman. She's like, "Oh, I'm trying to retire early." I think she was like in her 20s or something. So she works 2 jobs. She eats lunch. Um, it's like a 30-minute break. Once, like I think like around 2 o'clock, gets off, and then she gets into her second job, which is fine. Like I think this is. I don't think it's ever a bad thing when people are trying to get somewhere. But like if you think about it, it's like how do you define is your good life just to get to the end, and the process is just hell because you're going to be 50 years old and you're going to feel like you're 100 years old because you're exhausted. Having some of these things that are like, comfort levels where you're like, I've raised the standard for this, whether it's like conversations, it's like, I want to have good conversations with people. Mine for sure has been increasing the quality of my friendships and my friends. And it's changed my life because I'm like, I no longer just accidentally run into people and hang out with them, for a while. It's like I need like good friends because it fulfills my heart and it makes me feel, like I'm grounded. So definitely having these things has changed the games. So y'all, if you have anything that you absolutely enjoy, I definitely encourage you to raise the standards of it to be like, I won't settle for just any old thing. It's changed the
Yeah.
game for me, man.
Find a place, if you like to get I don't know, ice cream example.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop, spend, find a place by you. They're all over the place. Find a place by you that makes it there, you know.
Mhm.
Spend the extra dollar, $2. Go, go don't just get the the pint from the dollar store. Like, yeah, it's good. And I think that's kind of what we're alluding to. Not saying that you got to give up the chunky monkey, right? But
Mhm.
when you if you haven't allowed yourself to experience fresh made ice cream, like at least you
Yeah,
owe it to yourself.
at least try it.
Know what these kind of really really have that perfect moment like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. It's like the perfect cup of ice cream. What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
Challenge yourself to like to really find that best optimal kind of experience, because that's what we are always striving to make as creatives, is
Mhm.
that, and to inject that back into our work. What was that
Yeah.
quote you said earlier?
What
We
the
gotta,
beautiful
yeah, what Jeff
Yeah,
said earlier.
yeah, if you want to live, if you wanna create beautiful things, you have to live a beautiful life.
There it
And
is.
yeah, and
There it is,
that
y'all.
doesn't always entail, you going to, like, the biggest resorts, you going
Hmm.
to having the most fancy clothes. It can be as simple as, getting some illy coffee and just enjoying it, spending
Hmm.
time outside, enjoying the sun, because that makes it leads to a good life. It leads to, uh, full enjoyment of the things that you actually enjoy. Uh,
It
so yeah,
raises
I
your
think
standard. It raises your bar. It raises your bar of the things that you like, and then subsequently raises the bar of the things that you seek to make, to
yeah,
create, and to give to others too, which is what we need. And especially like you said, the rise of AI generated stuff coming out, coming out, coming out this way all over the place. Um, we gotta
yeah,
start kind of thinking more in this way. But
yeah,
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 I just wanted to throw that at you. Like I said, I'm not even halfway done the book, so I'll probably bring it up again as I kind of digest it a little bit more. I was paraphrasing a lot of things today, but yeah.
yeah. No, yeah. If I think that's a good place to close off. Yeah, Jamil, remind him about the name of the book and the author again, so that they can
Oh,
check it
it's
out.
it's the art of creating beautiful products, excellent products,
Yeah, yeah.
by Ricardo Illy.
And there's, I remember you told me this quote. Now I've been thinking about it, so I'm gonna tell everyone. The quote by Robert Illy was, "You can't."
Ricardo Illy.
Ricardo Illy was, "You can't make beautiful things fearfully,"
Hmm.
which is a good way to set things. So is that the pod?
I think that's the pod. Happy
It's the
Memorial
pod.
Day.